Put one plastic cart at the curb on Monday morning and something unusual happens. A truck worth roughly as much as a small house arrives, lifts the cart for less than 10 seconds, empties it, and disappears. You probably do not know the driver's name. You may not know the company's name. In many cities, you did not even choose the company. But every week, the truck comes back, because every week the product appears again by itself. If demand is guaranteed, why are the biggest operators walking away from customers? Trash may be the closest thing in business to guaranteed demand. Americans generated about 292 million tons of municipal solid waste in the latest national EPA dataset, almost 5 pounds per person every day. People can postpone buying a car, cancel a streaming service, or skip a restaurant. They cannot keep 3 years of garbage in the garage while waiting for prices to improve. That sounds like the safest business on earth. It is not. In 2025, WM, the largest operator in the industry, generated more than $25 billion in revenue, and during that same year, the company was deliberately walking away from lower-margin residential collection business. Think about that. The largest garbage company in North America had customers producing a product every week, paying recurring bills, and it still decided some of those customers were not worth serving. Because this business is not really about how much trash exists, it is about how close the customers are to one another, how long the truck spends moving without collecting anything, what you pay when the truck is full, and whether the place receiving the garbage belongs to you or to your competitor. By the end of this video, you will understand how one garbage truck can be a cash machine, while an identical truck across town loses money, why a route can be worth more than the equipment serving it, and why the most powerful asset in the entire business may be a hole in the ground that nobody wants built near their home. Before you buy anything, you need to decide what kind of garbage company you are actually buying, because the industry contains 3 very different businesses. The first is the collection business. This is the version most people picture. You own trucks, carts, dumpsters, drivers, and customer contracts. Residential customers may pay a flat monthly fee for one pickup a week. Restaurants and apartment buildings pay for dumpsters collected several times a week. Construction companies rent roll-off containers that are removed whenever they are full. The second is the transfer business. A local garbage truck is designed to stop hundreds of times, lift containers, compact waste, and move through narrow streets. It is an extremely expensive vehicle to send on a long highway trip. A transfer station solves that problem. Collection trucks unload nearby, the material is compacted into much larger trailers, and those trailers make the long trip to a landfill or processing facility. The truck is expensive. The empty space between customers is even more expensive. The third is disposal. Landfills charge a tipping fee for every ton or cubic yard that crosses the scale. Some also earn money from special waste, landfill gas, renewable natural gas, or electricity. But they also carry the largest permitting burden and the longest environmental obligations in the industry. A small entrepreneur can enter the first business. A regional company may own collection routes and a transfer station. The national giants try to own the entire chain: the customer, the truck, the transfer station, the landfill, the recycling facility, and sometimes the energy project built on top of the landfill gas. From the street, all 3 businesses look like garbage. On the income statement, they behave very differently. And this leads to the first important rule. A truck is equipment. A route is recurring revenue. A permitted disposal site is infrastructure. Do not value them as if they were the same asset. Let us start with the obvious purchase, the truck. Recent public procurements show why this is not a casual side business. Port Arthur, Texas approved almost $400,000 for one new automated garbage truck in 2025. A Utah waste district budgeted roughly $430,000 per diesel side loader for 2026. Berkeley authorized up to $3.8 million for 7 new rear-load trucks, which works out to more than $500,000 per vehicle before considering the rest of the operation. The exact price depends on the chassis, body, fuel system, automation, capacity, and local contract. But a serious new refuse truck is now commonly a $400,000 decision, and sometimes considerably more. Buying one truck is not enough. If the hydraulic arm fails at 10 in the morning, the garbage does not politely wait until next week. You need a backup truck, a rental relationship, or a competitor willing to finish the route at a price that will make you remember the failure for a long time. Then come the carts. A residential route may require thousands of standardized wheeled containers, each assigned to an address, delivered, repaired, replaced, and occasionally recovered from customers who stop paying. Commercial service requires steel dumpsters in multiple sizes. Roll-off service requires a fleet of containers that may cost less than a truck individually, but tie up substantial capital when dozens of them sit at customer sites. You also need a yard large enough to park and wash heavy vehicles, a maintenance area or service contract, fuel access, route software, billing software, cameras, safety equipment, permits, insurance, working capital, and enough cash to survive while a route is still too thin to cover its fixed costs. This is why starting from zero is often harder than buying an existing operator. When you purchase an established garbage company, the most valuable thing may not be visible in the yard. It may be the list of addresses that already pay every month and the municipal agreement that prevents another hauler from serving them. One dense route can produce almost twice the revenue with the same basic truck. Waste Connections describes many of its collection agreements as exclusive municipal contracts or franchise arrangements. Its disclosed weighted average remaining contract life is about 5 years, excluding certain exclusive or perpetual arrangements. Republic says municipal residential contracts commonly run 1 to 5 years, with some franchises lasting much longer. Some subscription customers even pay quarterly in advance. That is a very different asset from a truck. The truck depreciates every time it moves. A dense route can become more valuable every time another customer is added beside an existing one. A one-route startup using a new primary truck, a backup unit, several thousand carts, a yard, insurance, and working capital can cross $1 million before the route is comfortably full. That is an illustrative build, not a national average, but it explains why the cheapest way into this business is not necessarily buying cheap equipment. It is buying customers that are already close together. The industry has a simple phrase for the most important variable in collection: route density. Waste Connections lists route density directly among the factors used to price collection service, alongside frequency, waste volume, equipment, distance to disposal, and competition. The reason becomes obvious when you follow a truck for one day. A residential driver may service somewhere around 700 to 1,400 stops in a day and travel roughly 60 to 100 miles, depending on the market and route. Those figures cover a wide range of operations, but they reveal the basic economics. Imagine 2 trucks. Both cost $400,000. Both have one driver. Both work 5 collection days a week. Both charge an illustrative $30 a month per residential customer. Truck A serves 700 stops a day. Across 5 different weekday routes, that supports around 3,500 weekly customers. Annual revenue is about $1.26 million. Truck B serves 1,200 stops a day. Across 5 weekday routes, that supports around 6,000 customers. Annual revenue is about $2.16 million. Same basic truck, same basic driver, nearly $900,000 of additional annual revenue. Of course, the denser route will carry more waste, use more carts, and incur more disposal cost, but it does not need twice the chassis, twice the insurance policy, twice the yard space, or twice the driver hours. That is operating leverage. Now reverse the example. Suppose you have 4,000 customers spread across distant subdivisions, rural roads, and isolated commercial stops. The truck spends more time accelerating, braking, reversing, and driving between customers. It reaches the landfill later. It may need a second trip. Eventually, one truck cannot finish the route inside the legal and practical workday, so you add a second truck and a second driver. The moment the truck leaves the route for the landfill, it stops earning. The customer count barely changed. The cost structure did. This is why the empty road between two garbage carts can be more expensive than the garbage inside them. Every minute the truck spends driving without collecting is a minute in which a $400,000 asset and a paid employee are producing no new revenue. Every extra mile adds fuel, tires, brakes, maintenance, accident exposure, and time. Every unnecessary trip to the landfill removes the truck from the neighborhood where it earns money. Route density also explains why acquisitions matter so much in this industry. A company does not always buy a competitor because it needs another truck. It may buy the competitor because those customers sit beside its own customers. Combine two mediocre overlapping routes, remove one truck, and the same town can suddenly become much more profitable. That is the hidden product. A garbage company is not merely selling transportation, it is selling reliable removal across a tightly packed map. The route is a subscription business drawn on streets. Residential collection is the easiest part to understand. The customer pays a recurring fee, usually monthly or quarterly, for a defined container and pickup schedule. The volume may move slightly, but the bill is relatively predictable. Commercial collection is more layered. A restaurant may need a dumpster emptied 6 times a week. An office building may need one pickup. A grocery store may rent a compactor. Pricing depends on container size, service frequency, weight or volume, transport distance, and disposal cost. Commercial contracts often last 1 to 3 years, which creates recurring revenue but also locks the company into promises made before the next labor or insurance increase. Then there is roll-off service. Construction sites, renovations, roofing jobs, warehouse cleanouts, and demolitions use large, open-top containers. Revenue can include delivery, rental days, hauling, disposal, excess tonnage, and extra charges for prohibited or contaminated material. This business is less predictable than residential collection because construction activity changes with interest rates and the economy, but a single container can generate much more revenue per pickup. Owning the landfill means keeping a fee that would otherwise go to a competitor. Companies may also charge for bulky items, extra carts, return trips, contamination, temporary service, fuel recovery, environmental fees, and container rental. None of these is magic. They exist because the base service price often fails to reflect every cost created by every customer. The contract language matters as much as the price. Long-term municipal agreements frequently contain escalation formulas tied to inflation or another published index. But Waste Connections warns that some contracts do not allow the company to recover every cost increase or may limit increases to less than the change in the index. If driver wages rise faster than the formula or insurance jumps after a bad claims year, the route can become less profitable even while every customer continues paying. This is what happened at the top of the industry in 2025. WM reported strong pricing, but it also described a strategic exit from lower-margin residential business. The company was not rejecting trash. It was rejecting contracts where the route, price, and downstream costs no longer produced an acceptable return. Guaranteed demand is not guaranteed margin. The revenue formula is really this: number of customers multiplied by price and service frequency minus the cost of every minute, mile, ton, container, and risk required to keep the promise. That formula becomes much more attractive when the company controls the next stage of the journey. A collection truck makes money while it is collecting. When it leaves the route to unload, it becomes an extremely expensive delivery vehicle. This is why transfer stations exist. The EPA describes the basic logic clearly. Small collection vehicles unload near the service area. The material is consolidated and compacted into larger transfer vehicles. The collection crew returns to the route instead of spending hours traveling to a distant landfill. The result can be lower hauling cost, lower fuel use, less collection vehicle maintenance, and more time spent doing the work customers actually pay for. Republic operated 255 transfer stations at the end of 2025. The company says these facilities extend the geographic reach of its landfills and help retain waste that might otherwise go to a competitor. Then the waste reaches disposal, and the scale ticket changes the economics again. Landfills charge tipping fees, generally by weight or volume. The Environmental Research and Education Foundation reported a national average municipal solid waste tipping fee of about $62 per ton for 2024, with major regional variation. A hauler serving 5,000 households and disposing of roughly 1 ton per account per year would spend around $310,000 annually at that national figure before taxes, surcharges, special waste premiums, or transfer fees. A broken hydraulic arm can destroy the economics of an entire collection day. Now imagine the landfill belongs to the same company. The collection division still records the disposal economics internally because the landfill is not free to operate. But at the consolidated company level, the tipping fee is no longer leaving the system and becoming a competitor's revenue. Republic calls this internalization. In 2025, approximately 67% of the solid waste it collected was disposed at landfills it owned or operated. The company says fully integrated markets generally have lower operating costs and more favorable cash flow than markets that are not fully integrated. This is the economic moat. The small hauler owns the relationship with the customer. The integrated operator owns the relationship, the transfer point, and the scarce permitted destination. It can earn at multiple stages of the same ton's journey. A landfill's price also depends on more than operating cost. Waste Connections lists the type and volume of waste, local competition, transport method, distance to alternative disposal sites, and the cost of disposal. If the next permitted landfill is 80 miles away, the nearest site has enormous practical pricing power. Nobody can create a competing landfill next month simply because the fee went up. That is why the most valuable part of a garbage empire may look like the least attractive real estate in town. The route pays the bills, the transfer station removes wasted miles, the landfill controls the destination. The largest public operators reveal what this business consumes at scale. Republic's 2025 cost structure is useful, although it should not be treated as a template for a small independent company. Labor and related benefits were about 20% of revenue. Maintenance and repairs were 9%. Transportation and subcontract costs were just over 7%. Transfer and disposal paid to third parties were 6.5%. Fuel was 2.8%. Risk management, including insurance premiums and claims, was 2.6%. Landfill operating costs added another 2.3%. The surprising number is fuel. People see a fleet of heavy trucks and assume diesel determines everything. It matters, but labor, maintenance, disposal, and risk can matter far more. The driver is not cheap labor attached to a truck. The median annual wage for refuse and recyclable material collectors was about $52,800 in 2025 before benefits, payroll taxes, overtime, training, and the cost of replacing people in a difficult job. Recycling works only when the contract survives the commodity market. It is also a dangerous job. BLS data for 2024 show a fatal injury rate of 37.4 per 100,000 full-time equivalent workers for refuse and recyclable material collectors, compared with 3.3 across all workers. A truck repeatedly stops in traffic, reverses near people, operates hydraulic equipment, carries unpredictable material, and works in darkness, heat, snow, and tight spaces. Safety is not merely a compliance line. It directly affects insurance, staffing, claims, downtime, and whether a route can operate at all. Then there is maintenance. A garbage truck does not cruise gently down a highway. It starts, stops, lifts, compacts, idles, reverses, and repeats the cycle hundreds of times. Hydraulic systems leak, arms fail, compactor bodies crack, brakes and tires wear, contaminated loads damage equipment. One breakdown can force overtime across the entire fleet because the route still has to be completed. In 2025, Republic said equipment maintenance and insurance premiums were among the costs pressuring its operating groups. It also recorded $40 million of operating cost related primarily to isolated labor disruptions. At that scale, even a few local operational problems become eight-figure events. This is why a cheap used truck can be the most expensive truck in the yard. If it spends Monday in the repair bay, the purchase price is irrelevant. The route needs another vehicle now. The customer sees one 10-second pickup. The owner sees a chain of labor, safety, maintenance, disposal, insurance, billing, and backup capacity that has to work before sunrise every week. Recycling looks like the obvious bonus. Collect paper, cardboard, aluminum, and plastic. Sort it, sell it, earn a second revenue stream while reducing landfill cost. Sometimes that is exactly what happens. But recycled material is a commodity, and commodities do not care what a city promised its residents. Republic's recycling processing and commodity sales represented only about 3% of total revenue in 2025. The company processed and sold 2.2 million tons, excluding glass and organics. Its average recycled commodity price fell from $164 per ton in 2024 to $135 in 2025. Republic estimated that, at its current volume and material mix, a $10 per ton price move would change annual revenue and operating income by about $13 million. That is the problem in miniature. The truck, labor, sorting line, building, and electricity still exist when cardboard prices fall. Contamination may turn a load that was supposed to earn money into a load that must be landfilled at a cost. Contracts may require the hauler to share commodity upside with the municipality while leaving the operator exposed to some of the downside. The United States learned this on a much larger scale after China's national sword policy sharply restricted imports of lower-quality recyclable materials. A market that had absorbed enormous volumes of American paper and plastic suddenly became far less accessible. Municipalities and processors had to find new buyers, improve sorting, raise fees, suspend programs, or send material to landfills. The landfill may keep costing money for 30 years after it closes, so recycling can be profitable, but only when the service fee, contamination rules, processing cost, and commodity sharing formula are designed to survive a bad market. The material may be green. The revenue is still cyclical. Owning a landfill gives a company pricing power and internalization. It also creates an obligation that can outlive the revenue stream by decades. A modern landfill is not simply a hole filled with trash. It requires engineered liners, leachate collection, gas systems, daily cover, groundwater monitoring, environmental reporting, capacity planning, and financial assurance. When the site reaches the end of its permitted life, the owner must cap it, close it, maintain the containment systems, manage gas and leachate, and continue monitoring. Federal rules use a 30-year post-closure care period as the standard starting point, although regulators can shorten or extend it. That means the final truck can leave today while the bills continue into the 2050s. Republic ended 2025 with responsibility for 124 closed landfills. Its balance sheet included about $2.3 billion in liabilities for final capping, closure, and post-closure care, plus roughly $443 million in environmental remediation liabilities. This does not mean landfills are bad assets. It means their apparent margin includes a promise to spend money long after the last ton is accepted. There is also upside. Decomposing organic waste creates landfill gas containing roughly half methane. That gas can be captured, used to generate electricity, or upgraded into renewable natural gas. Republic reported 77 landfill gas-to-energy projects at the end of 2025, with many more in development. In other words, the same landfill can collect a tipping fee when the waste arrives and later earn additional revenue from the gas produced as it decomposes. But none of that removes the obligation to monitor and maintain the site. A landfill is a scarce local utility, an energy asset, and a long-duration environmental liability sitting on the same piece of land. That is why small haulers often want access to landfills, while large operators want ownership. Republic Services is a useful picture of the fully integrated model. At the end of 2025, it had 377 collection operations, 255 transfer stations, 79 recycling centers, and 207 active landfills. Approximately 68% of revenue came from collection. Third-party landfill tipping fees contributed about 12%. Transfer stations contributed around 5%, and recycling processing and commodity sales around 3%. Most importantly, 67% of the solid waste Republic collected went into landfills it owned or operated. That network generated about $16.6 billion of revenue and $2.14 billion of net income in 2025. Its recycling and waste segments produced nearly $4.94 billion of adjusted EBITDA on about $14.8 billion of net revenue. WM was even larger, with $25.2 billion in total revenue and a reported adjusted operating EBITDA margin above 30% for 2025. Those margins are not proof that one local route will behave the same way. National operators have purchasing power, sophisticated pricing systems, broad insurance programs, internal landfills, transfer networks, automated recycling assets, and access to cheaper capital. But their disclosures prove the central idea. The biggest companies are not trying to own the most trucks. They are trying to control the most profitable flow of material through a protected local network. That is also why they can reject volume. A low-price contract far from the company's disposal network may add revenue while reducing return. A smaller amount of waste moving through dense routes and company-owned infrastructure can be more valuable than a larger amount moving through scattered routes and third-party landfills. In ordinary retail, more customers usually help. In garbage collection, the location and contract of the customer can matter more than the existence of the customer. Let us put the model together. The route pays the bills. The disposal network builds the moat. Scenario 1 is a small, independent residential hauler. You have 4,000 customers paying an illustrative $32 per month for weekly collection. Annual revenue is $1.536 million. Assume the route produces roughly 1 ton of disposed material per account per year. At a $62 tipping fee, disposal costs about $250,000. Loaded labor for drivers, backup coverage, office work, and an owner-manager totals about $280,000. Truck payments and depreciation consume $150,000. Maintenance and parts cost $130,000. Fuel costs $70,000. Insurance and claims cost $100,000. The yard, carts, replacements, billing, software, permits, and administration consume another $200,000. Add $60,000 for overtime, bad debt, missed service recovery, and ordinary surprises. Total cost, about $1.24 million. Operating cash before income tax and major expansion spending, roughly $300,000. Against an initial equipment, cart, yard, and working capital investment near $1 million, that can be an excellent small business. But only if the route is dense, the truck stays running, customers pay, and the disposal price behaves. Now, change one fact. The same 4,000 customers are spread so widely that one truck cannot complete the work. You add a second active truck, another driver, more insurance, more fuel, and more maintenance. That can add hundreds of thousands of dollars to annual cost while revenue barely changes. A $20 increase in the tipping fee adds another $80,000 if you dispose of 4,000 tons. One serious accident or prolonged breakdown can erase what remains. Same number of customers, same monthly price. Completely different business. Scenario 2 is a mature integrated operator. Imagine a $100 million regional company with collection, transfer, and disposal economics resembling the mix of a strong public operator. At the low 30% adjusted EBITDA level disclosed by the largest company's solid waste businesses, that enterprise could produce around $30 million before depreciation, interest, taxes, and company-specific adjustments. At the low teens net margins seen at mature national scale, final net income might be around $10 to $13 million. That is not a forecast for a regional company. It is a scale illustration based on public company economics. A smaller operator may have higher borrowing costs, weaker purchasing power, more customer concentration, and less efficient overhead. But it shows why permitted disposal capacity and dense routes can become extraordinarily valuable. The independent operator earns by collecting efficiently. The integrated operator earns by controlling the system the independent operator must use. So, should you buy a garbage company? The demand is real. The billing is recurring. Customers rarely celebrate the service, but they notice immediately when it fails. That makes collection unusually durable. But the garbage itself does not guarantee profit. The route determines how much revenue one truck can collect. The transfer station determines how quickly that truck can return to work. The landfill determines where the ton must go and who receives the disposal fee. The contract determines whether rising costs can be passed to the customer. And the safety and maintenance system determines whether the entire operation is still functioning before sunrise tomorrow. The weakest operator owns a truck and hopes to find enough customers. The stronger operator owns dense routes. The most powerful operator owns the destination. So, if you ever evaluate a garbage company, do not begin by asking how much trash the town produces. Trash is the one thing you already know will exist. Ask how many paying stops fit into 1 hour, how far the truck travels when it is full, what the disposal site charges, and who owns that site. Because in this business, the route pays the bills. The landfill builds the moat.